Fear is a quiet thing. It does not announce itself with a bang or a scream. It creeps into your life like a shadow slipping under a door, subtle, almost polite, and yet persistent. At first, it is merely hesitation, a tiny voice inside asking whether you are truly ready, whether you are capable, whether you should even try. If you follow that voice too closely, it becomes a guide, shaping your choices, limiting your ambitions, enclosing your spirit in invisible chains. I have spent decades obeying that voice. And now, I carry the weight of those years. I am old enough to see how those small moments of hesitation grew into a life carefully measured, a life lived mostly in the shade of what could have been. When I was a boy, the world was enormous. Every morning was a canvas painted with possibilities. I ran barefoot across meadows where the grass brushed against my knees, chasing the river that twisted and turned like a restless serpent. Its waters reflected the sun in sparks of gold, and I imagined that if I could only follow it far enough, I would discover a new world. I climbed trees taller than my house, my hands gripping rough bark, my toes searching for hidden footholds, feeling the thrill of being high above everything familiar. The wind whipped against my face and filled me with a sense of invincibility. Every question I asked adults seemed to carry the promise of adventure. Every scrape, every fall, every bruise was proof that I was alive, that the world belonged to me and my curiosity. Fear had not yet found a place in my life. Then adolescence came, carrying expectations and warnings like invisible chains. Teachers, elders, even friends whispered caution, disguised as advice. Fear arrived not with terror, but as responsibility, as the polite voice saying, "Perhaps you should wait. Perhaps you should measure. Perhaps you should not." At 14, I wanted to climb the tallest hill near our town. The hill rose like a sentinel, its peak hidden by curling mists, jagged stones jutting out like teeth. I imagined falling, imagined my friends laughing, imagined the disappointed look of my father. And yet, I climbed. Step by step, my heart pounding, the wind tearing through my hair, I felt freedom in its purest form. That exhilaration was fleeting. Fear had begun its quiet work, shaping the way I measured my next moves. At 16, I longed to learn the violin. I imagined the bow gliding across strings, the music flowing from my hands, as if the instrument were an extension of my soul. I pleaded with my parents, promising dedication and passion, envisioning the glow of stage lights and the silent awe of audiences. But practicality prevailed. "It's too expensive," they said. "It's not necessary." And I obeyed. That small surrender would echo across decades. Fear of failure, of embarrassment, of disapproval had already claimed its first victory in my life. At 18, the first opportunity to leave the familiar arrived. Friends invited me to move to a distant city, to try something uncertain and bold, a business, a creative venture, or perhaps simply a new life beyond the boundaries of our small town. My heart leapt. I imagined streets unfamiliar, faces unknown, conversations unspoken, worlds yet uncreated. And yet I hesitated. I imagined failure, poverty, ridicule. I stayed. My friends left, stumbled, thrived, and grew. I remained safe. That seemingly small choice laid the foundation for a life increasingly defined by caution. Even after that, the tension between desire and fear shaped my life. I wanted to paint, to write, to travel, to speak, to learn. Each opportunity whispered promise. Each time I allowed fear to dominate. I remember evenings staring at notebooks, half filled with ideas, half-formed sketches abandoned on desks, doors closed before I dared to step through. Every no I allowed myself to make, every hesitation I obeyed, became another brick in the walls that enclosed my potential. I recall a summer at 17, lying in the grass under a sky bruised with sunset, imagining myself crossing oceans, exploring forests, meeting people who spoke languages I did not know. I had maps, I had dreams, I had courage pulsing in my veins, but I did not move. I listened to the quiet voice of caution, and so I stayed. That summer became a symbol, decades later, of everything I left unexplored, of everything I deferred in the name of prudence. By 19, the small victories I had once celebrated, the hill climbs, the river chases, the questions asked, were already memories I revisited with longing and sadness. Fear, subtle and patient, had begun shaping my decisions, shaping my life. Even at that age, I felt the tug of regret, though I could not yet name it. Every choice deferred was a chance denied. By 20, I discovered the quiet joy of creating, writing, sketching, dreaming. It was never for recognition or money, but for the raw, uncontainable feeling of life flowing through me. I imagined stories that no one would read, inventions that might never exist, adventures I might never embark on. Each day, I would sit at my small wooden desk by the window, the morning light spilling across unfinished papers, pencils scattered like thoughts I could not yet order. I would watch the world pass by, children running, birds darting between rooftops, vendors calling out from the streets below, the scent of bread from the bakery drifting up to my room. And there, in that quiet corner, my imagination soared. But fear spoke softly, persistently. Wait. Wait until you are ready. Wait until the time is perfect. And I waited. Days and years drifted like clouds overhead, beautiful, moving, untouchable. And I remained stationary, watching, waiting. I watched friends leap into uncertainty, start ventures, travel, speak boldly, love openly, fail spectacularly, and succeed. And I remained in my small circle of safety. Each passing year deepened my awareness of what I had avoided. At 22, I chose stability. A secure job, a predictable career, a life admired by many. People called me responsible. My parents smiled with pride. Friends envied my comfort. And yet, the hollowness inside me grew quietly, like shadows stretching at dusk. Opportunities arose, small openings in the world I had yet to explore. And every time, fear whispered, "Not now, not yet, you might fail." And I obeyed. Each avoided risk became a chain. Each cautious choice became a wall. Love entered my life in my late 20s. She was fearless, untamed, alive. She challenged me. She asked me to step into uncertainty, to speak freely, to live fully. And I hesitated. I weighed, calculated, measured. I withheld. She left, not because of wrongdoing, but because caution had created a distance too wide to cross. Fear steals more than opportunity. It steals intimacy, love, connection. By 30, my career was stable, my life predictable. Yet in quiet nights, ideas whispered. a book, a business, a journey, a skill to learn. And every time, fear roared louder than desire. I convinced myself it was too late, too risky, too impractical. Later often becomes never. Years passed. Friends left, tried, stumbled, fell, succeeded. They embraced life fully, while I observed, cautious, comfortable, yet silently envious. By 40, my routines were rigid, habits cemented. Energy was abundant, yet my spirit yearned for more. I realized that my life, admired by many, had been constructed around fear. Travel unattempted, skills untaught, creative ventures untried, relationships underexplored, these were the true costs. Each avoided risk accumulated quietly, shaping decades into a cage invisible to all but myself. By 50, my body reminded me that time is finite. Energy waned, days felt shorter. Opportunities once seeming infinite now felt fragile. Hesitation was no longer a soft whisper. It was a heavy weight pressing down on me, reminding me of years lost to prudence. Travel I postponed, books I never wrote, skills left unlearned, relationships never pursued. The years I thought were limitless had quietly slipped away. Even mundane moments carried pangs of regret. I recall standing in a cafe on a rainy afternoon, watching strangers talk about adventures, journeys, successes, failures I would never experience. The smell of coffee mixed with damp earth from the streets outside, and I felt the sharp sting of comparison. I had books I wanted to read, instruments I wanted to master, languages I longed to speak. And yet, I had said later too many times. I recall the ache of evenings spent staring at unopened letters from friends in distant cities, invitations I never accepted, phone calls I never made. Life passed, and I watched it quietly from my window, enclosed by the walls I had built from caution. By 60, I had gained wisdom, yet still I wrestled with regret. I travelled to places I had always postponed, yet with a sense of catching up, chasing a life I had delayed for decades. Ned, to speak to strangers with courage, to smile at moments previously ignored, to try creative endeavours I had left dormant. And in those small victories, I discovered that courage, even late, brings its own kind of joy. Even now, I attempt small things. I speak my mind more freely. I pursue old, dormant ideas. I travel to places near and far. I engage with strangers. I act on long-forgotten dreams. I write letters I might have once hesitated to send. I read books I postponed for decades. I revisit abandoned sketches, unfinished manuscripts. I experiment with painting again, with words and sounds I had once thought beyond me. And the joy is in the attempt, in motion, in embracing life fully. I reflect on afternoons spent in libraries, mountains I never climbed, music never learnt, friendships never deepened, because I hesitated. Each memory reminds me that fear steals quietly, but courage, even late courage, gives back life in abundance. I remember sitting on a park bench at sunset, watching children chase each other, laughing freely, thinking that I had once had the same boundless energy and yet had not dared to run as boldly. I think of mornings by the river, the water sparkling with sunlight, and how I once feared even stepping into that freedom. I think of the love I did not fully pursue, of conversations left unsaid, of journeys never begun. I remember watching people share adventures, listening to their stories, their laughter, their triumphs, and feeling both joy and a quiet pang of longing. I remember afternoons when I felt the pull of adventure, the urge to go somewhere unknown, meet someone new, explore an idea. Yet I stayed. weighed down by caution. At 70, I travelled to a small coastal town I had dreamed of since I was 20. Walking along the waves, feeling the sand between my toes, listening to the gulls calling overhead, I felt a mixture of joy and sorrow. Joy for finally stepping into what I had imagined for decades, and sorrow for all the decades I had let pass. Each step along the shore was a reminder that life, though late, still offers moments of wonder, if one dares to embrace them. I recall evenings spent writing letters I never sent, reflecting on friendships that faded, on moments I missed, on words I never said. I revisit conversations in my mind, imagining how they could have gone, how they could have changed my life, how I could have been braver. And I laugh softly at my younger self, so full of hesitation, yet still capable of wonder. I find beauty now in the small things, the smell of rain on the streets, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the sound of leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. I embrace the tactile, the simple, the fleeting. I revisit old notebooks, read stories I wrote decades ago, imagine the lives I might have lived. I think about the risks I did not take, but I also think about the courage I finally found in small increments, in quiet acts, in tiny decisions that pushed me forward. I feel a profound gratitude for the present, for mornings when I wake to the sunlight, for evenings when I can sit quietly with a cup of tea, for the friends who remain, for family, for strangers who share stories, for books, for music, for the wind on my face. Even at 77, the world is alive, and I am alive within it. The years behind me are proof. The years ahead are limited. Hesitation rewards nothing. Only boldness brings fulfillment. Trust yourself. Step into the unknown. The world is full of fleeting chances, and life permits only one attempt at many of them. If there is one lesson from my story, listen to fear, but do not obey it. Step forward, fail, succeed. Love fully, speak honestly, create relentlessly. And when you look back, sit in the satisfaction of having lived, having tried, having embraced the unpredictable beauty of existence itself. I think often of the sunsets I have missed, the songs I have not sung, the stories I have not told. And yet, I smile. Because even late, even now, life continues to offer chances. Even at 77, I can still take a step into the unknown, still feel the thrill of discovery, still embrace the richness of being fully present. Each breath, each moment, each heartbeat is a reminder that the world waits for no one, but also gives its gifts generously to those who dare. Life is short. Fear casts a long shadow. Only you can choose whether to follow it or walk beyond it into the light of possibility.